morning, everybody. How's it going? Trail Dust, Jack Pines, Ben Toons, Shane Lalone. And that's you guys. And then Borchakov, Jeff Killian. Everybody gets in early, starts chatting, and then runs the names all the way down the list. Thank you. John Burnell. What is up? Robert Lonis. And all the lurkers out there. Hubcap. Good morning. Happy Sunday. What y'all trying to do here today? Checking all my settings. I think we're good. All right, yeah, we're good. Hey, what's that down there? Oh, air sources. Talking about my butt. No. Anyway,
That was last month. I meant to be, Ford Fuels.
Yeah.
Methane.
So what is up, everybody? How y'all doing? So tell me, how was your week? Let's hear about it. Who wants to tell me
I'll
about
go.
their week? Alrighty.
All right, so I'd like to start off with saying hey to Shane there. That is a fair point. He says, Alexis, I'll agree that beer was good at the start, but just nasty. Didn't finish. And what he's talking about there is the Martin House best made dill pickle beer. It is Martin House Brewery's most popular beer. They make it year round. It's the only like weird one that they make year round. And I hate it. I mean, like I bought one, or no, you can only buy a sixer, and I bought a sixer, and like four of them I tried. I like okay, maybe I'm drunk enough to try this one, maybe, and every time I'm just like, shit, this is really gross. How does anybody drink this? And then I had one left that I put into my one of collection, because I had a one of every Martin House beer collection that no longer exists, and I had nothing to do with that. We'll just put it that way. Considering each one of those beers was worth like $100, I mean, like, that was 42 beers that I really wish I could get back. But anyways, Shane got a hold of some of that Martin House best made beer, and was like, man, this stuff is great. And he DM'd me, and I'm just like, no, it's not. Yeah, somebody changed their mind. But anyways, my week was pretty good. I got a decent amount of work in, plenty enough to pay the bills, which really, I mean, who could ask for anything more?
Me.
Yeah, you. Mentally, emotionally, it's been a decent week. I mean, like, things have just been kind of falling in line where they're supposed to go. A bit of self-revelation in some areas that just happened, and I don't know why or how, but they just did, and made me feel good about myself. And those kind of things are always good when you realize something about yourself and you go, oh, shit, that's great. Yeah, whatever. Also, in my circle of people, a fairly popular person came out as trans today, or not today, 2 days ago, and that was always like, yay! For people in my circle, that's always a big deal. But other than that, I mean, like, I did get into the shop a couple times. I worked on my blacksmith monthly challenge piece for like a few. Well, I mean, I did it when I was on days off, and I failed, and I failed, and I failed, and I mean, like, repeatedly. And then I changed projects, and I failed, and I'm just like, I got so frustrated with failure. Like, how many times can you restart a project before you say, "Fuck this, I'm out"? All right. I mean, like, I'm serious. I mean, like, it's just like when you're making something and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't. How long for you? I'm asking you guys in the chat. I mean, like, how long before you just say, you know what, I'm not doing this. I'm out. And I got to that point after 5 failures. I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm so sick of this. I was so mad. Like, my first project was going to be an open end monkey wrench, like offset So like one faces this way, one faces that way. And it was going to be like, I think 3/8 and a half, whatever. And I had this whole plan of how great this thing was going to be. Like with etching it with the make believe brand name, and that it was going to be a knockoff of Snap on. I mean, you guys can kind of ponder that and figure out where I was going to go with it, but it was going to be funny, right? And in my mind, I had this in my mind. I saw an offset box or an offset open end wrench from Sound in black oxide coating with this other name on it. And I was like, this is going to be an epic freaking tool. This is going to be great. And it didn't work, and it didn't work, and it didn't work, and it didn't work, and it didn't work. And then I was like, all right, screw it. I'm going to make a distributor wrench. Now, there's probably 3 people in this chat that know what a distributor wrench is, because, I mean, like, I'm old and I get it. And I mean, you know, like, distributors don't even exist anymore. So, I mean, most of you guys would be like, what? What are you distributing? And so I did make a distributor wrench, and it was functional. Like, it actually works. It had a Rubik's twist up the middle of it. Met the requirements of having 2 metals because it was copper coated, and but it looked like a hammered turd. And not because of like it was just like the wrench ends, no matter what I did, looked round. Like one end was 1/2 inch for Ford, and it would turn a 1/2 inch bolt. The other end was 9/16 for a Chevy, and it would turn a 9/16 bolt. But if you just looked at it, each end looked like they were just round, and I could not get them to look like that hex shape, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. I mean, like, so at the end of the day, it looked like I just bent this thing into shape and then punched a couple round holes in it and called it good. And so it just never looked right. And then I wound up just winging it out the door and into the grass, and it's still out there somewhere. And like I told the people in the Instagram group, is like, my daughter will find it when she mows. But and then at the last minute, on the last day of the challenge, I decided, you know what, I got to do something. I got to do something. And then so I decided, okay, this is what I've got. This is what I can work with. This is how I can integrate 2 metals. And so I made this little tack hammer. This is made out of a piece of 3/4 inch square wrought iron. Gave it a little bit of an etch. It's I mean, maybe 20 minutes of etch on it. And then the pin that's my second metal is a United States Air Force logo mosaic pen. And that's what I did for my monthly challenge. I knocked it out in about 3 hours. Finished about 2 hours before deadline. And now, while it's not that great, it is wonky. It's the first claw hammer I've ever done. It's also the first time I've ever worked a piece of wrought iron that didn't end in utter failure. It didn't split out. It didn't wind up getting thrown out the door. It actually worked. I worked it at the right temperature. Nothing went wrong. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I got my first actual wrought iron piece done that wasn't screwed up, and I made my first claw hammer. Now, I can definitely do this better, and I'm gonna, because I really love making hammers for some reason. And so I'm gonna definitely improve upon this just for my own entertainment, so to speak. But I liked it. It was the challenge made me expand my envelope of ability, and it was well worth it. That was my week in a nutshell. There might be a few other things I'll touch on later on, but all in all, that's it. Adam, how was your week? Did you accomplish anything, or Yamez? What?
I was going to say, I'd like to argue that any wrench is technically a distributor wrench because you distribute power from your hand to the bolt. So, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm having one of them days. Having one of them days. Yes, I got nothing blacksmithing related, unfortunately, this week, except I got a message from a customer or a potential customer that approached me at the end of the last year, basically confirming their order. And I was supposed to get into that job this week. Unfortunately, it did rain a little bit this week, and I have been flat out, considering it has up until basically the start of this week, it'd been raining for the last month and a half, I finally had the ability to get on top of stuff around the property that I needed to get on top of. So I had got my whippersnipper back, my edge trimmer, line trimmer for you guys in the US. So I was finally able to, cut my grass, mow my lawns. I had to break out the chainsaw and cut down a few trees that had fallen in a few storms that I hadn't been able to get to because my place is a bog. And also, managed to get the tractor running and do a little bit of boundary and clear up some of the fire risk that was going to happen in the next couple of months if I didn't get that done. So basically, that was that took a majority of my week. My lawns were thigh high by the time I finally got around to actually mowing them. So that alone took me about 3 days to do, just simply with the sheer amount of stuff I had to mow. And then as part of cutting down the trees, I had some cocky apple. I had an ironwood that had come and an ironwood that had come down during the storm. And a friend of mine, I cut them up in order to let some of them dry. I hope to use a little bit of it in some potential future projects that I might have coming up, but also because the cocky apple is a really nice wood, and of course the ironwood is a rich red, but incredibly hard when it dries out. So luckily I was able to cut that up a bit green. And the only other thing I did was make some rum. So I'm in the process of doing a rum for myself because I'm Australian and I'm really stereotypical. But other than that, now that I've pretty much caught up on a lot of my house work that I needed to get done and around the house and stuff like that, just got to wait for the ground to dry out a little bit and hopefully get some concrete for my workshop and fix my driveway. And this month, touch wood, all going well and nothing going sideways, I'll be able to get in on the Blacksmith Challenge now that my yard isn't underwater and I'm able to get out to my workshop, the little workshop I've got, and so I'll be able to hopefully contribute to this month's challenge that our good friend Thomas Goodymoot organises every month with a group of us Impractical Blacksmiths. So yeah, but other than that, to answer your question, Sully, I usually do things about 3 times when I start to get frustrated. Then I take a break because I find that when I take a break, I have a smoke break, I have a drink. I try and give myself about half an hour because I normally find that the more frustrated I get, the more rushed or the more fuzzy in the brain I get. I'm not thinking clearly. So when I take that break, and I find when I get angry, it's very much like heat stroke in the sense that I'm just not thinking clearly. So I take a break, have a drink, sometimes have something to eat, and then come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. I figured this out about myself many years ago with playing computer games. I get stuck on a level and I get really, really frustrated and then I'll throw on the controller or something like that. And then I come back to it a couple of days later and play that same level or whatnot. And all of a sudden it was really easy. It's like, why the hell couldn't I figure that out the other day? So, I generally give myself a little bit of a break and try and come back to it with fresh eyes once I've calmed down and got rid of that frustration and then got, I should have done this. So I wasn't thinking. Yeah. So 3 times and then take a break for me. And normally it works out. What about you, Yamez? How's your week?
Oh, it's had its ups and downs. It's been busy. Strong first half of the week for work, and then it just kind of like I finished things too early. I finished things way too early. Thomas had asked me if I wanted to get in on the monthly blacksmithing challenge. I can try, but I can't make any promises. Like, legit, I have not had much time to get out to the shop at all. I want to. I mean, every time I go in there to grab something to tinker with something real quick, for work. I see my octopus sitting there and just primed and ready for me to work on it, and it's just like, um, but the again, like what I've been doing lately, nobody here really gives a shit about. So it's like I feel weird talking about it, you know. But I've been working hard with my team on this gaming economy thing that I'm working on, and it's like we're maintaining above a 80,000 market cap and all that stuff. Anyway, you know, like it's trying to set up some events and trying to deal with some developers and you know, figure out when to market and this and that, and it's just dealing with that. So just got me busy, you know, I spent the, you know, Friday evening and, you know, all day yesterday over at my brother's house. Played with the puppies, and yeah, kind of hung out and helped them catch a mouse. You know, they're like, "We got a mouse in our house," and I'm like, "Yeah, welcome to the country." You know, put up a glue trap, and they were all amazed that it got caught within a couple of hours. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's how you do." You know, now put more out.
Yeah, but to be fair, they're just used to rats.
Yeah, yeah. So, kind of, it's weird for me because it's like things are progressing for me, but if you look at it from the outside, it's like it's the standing still doing the same thing, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, things are going good. You know,
So
want to get back in the shop. Uh, but but yeah, that's about it for me. Same old stuff. Here to crack jokes, and we're here to talk about blowers. You know, you know, of the various types. Let's how many types of blowers are out there, and in what situations do you need to add air? In which situations do you need to use a blower?
I mean, you've got the hand crank, you've got an electric blower, you've got the I mean, uh, never mind. Uh, uh, uh,
You
but no,
couldn't hold out a little bit longer.
no, I'll wait a little longer.
I was gonna.
I was hold on. Jeff and Kevin, you're talking about you got the timing light to go along with that distributor wrench. I bet you don't got a freaking mag timing light.
You don't need a
I've got a
mag
mag
timing light.
timing light for doing magnetos. Bobby, no, Roy did not inspire me on the claw hammer. That was actually the very first thing I wanted to make, but then I thought somebody else is going to do a claw hammer, so I'm not gonna. And yeah, and then Roy did one, and I was like, see, I knew somebody was going to do a claw hammer, and I'm glad I didn't. And then and then last minute I was like, screw it, I'm doing a tack hammer because that's what I got. Adam, talking about getting angry after about three goes and a failure. I'm lucky in the aspect that my temper has been tempered, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like I don't really get angry, so to speak, so much as I get just a little bit. I'm not mad, as I'm frustrated at myself for not being good enough, not being able to perform the task that I want to perform. So I'm not angry, I'm not mad, and I'm not throwing my project out the door because I'm mad at my project. I'm frustrated with myself for not being good enough. And so it's almost bordering on sadness, you know what I mean? And it's this really weird emotional turmoil that I go through when I'm trying to make something and it doesn't work and it doesn't work and it doesn't work. And I know the reason it's not working is because I'm at fault. You know what I mean? It's like this is me. It's not the steel. It's not the heat. I'm doing it wrong, and I'm not good enough. And so I have this whole different viewpoint on the reason that I'm failing. It's not it's not anything's fault but mine. And there's no point in getting angry at myself. So I don't really get angry and go all gym bro on my forge work and be like, oh! I'm just like, I suck. And that's there you go.
I can honestly say I've never turfed a piece of steel out of my workshop. Never.
Really?
Yep.
It's so much fun.
I've never.
I do it all
I've
the
never-
time. It is so it is such a it's a relief. It really is. It's like once you realize the piece you're working on is no longer usable. Once you realize it's done, it is fairly gratifying to just chunk it right out the door. Just like, whoo!
I've wanted to, but I've never. And see, like you were talking about, like frustration versus anger. I don't really get angry. I get frustrated to the point, like you said, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm frustrated. For that term, I'm angry when frustrated. But so when I get to the point where I feel like I'm needed to turf something out of the workshop, I don't do it, but that's when I know I need to take a break, because that's my limit. I am no longer concentrating on the task. I'm now concentrating on my failures or my shortcomings. So that's when I know I got to put this down, walk away. Even if I come back and start with a new piece, I know I've got to put this down and walk away, take a breather, take a drink, just get my head out of the forge, and then come back in with a fresh set of eyes.
Well,
It's not angry.
You guys have all seen me frustrated during a live stream,
You're very calm, cool, and collected on stream, though.
Yes. Unless I just end the stream and start throwing things around after the camera's done.
Right.
I've got to find it. I've got a throwing hammer made by Mr. Davis. That's about what it's useful for. It just sits there, and when I get angry, I throw it at the back wall. And I don't know where it is, because the last time I threw it really hard and it went off into the ether. But yeah. Always keep a throwing hammer so that you don't ruin what you're working on.
I used to I will say this, prior to my situation, like when I would get frustrated and mad at like a piece that that wasn't working, I would intentionally throw it at the at stuff, like at the wall, at stuff, like I wanted to cause damage to something. I wanted to like when it hit, I wanted to screw something up. Like I wanted the action of throwing to have consequences. And now I'm a little bit more laissez-faire, a little bit more passé. I just like I'm winging it out the door because I want this piece out of my sight. When I see the next time I see it, like, whether that's a week from now or in 3 hours, I will pick it up and I will carry it over to the junk pile. But for now, I want it out of my sight. Now I don't want to damage anything in the process. So like move beyond like winging something at the wall or winging something across the room at my air compressor, or winging it at the wall and accidentally hitting the air compressor. I mean, I've moved beyond that mentally, emotionally, and and now I can just like aim right out the door, and it's not so much like I'm trying to. It's not like it's not an act of aggression. It's not an act of I'm going to show you. It's just like, I don't want to see this. I need this out of my vision and out of my focus. And then I wing it out the door, and then I grab another piece of metal and I start doing something completely different. And this week I actually did some actually productive stuff. Like I said, I made this little hammer. I finished up the last of my my trivets that I'd ordered from Christ Center Ironworks or blacksmithingblanks.com. If you haven't ever been there, I suggest you check them out. All right. And with that, I see Adam is talking about the squirrels on this hot air topic.
Yeah,
but
we started it.
I did not start that.
We started it, and then all of a sudden we're talking about throwing shit around, and I'm like, Okay.
Well, but that was all connected to how was your week. I mean that's we haven't even gotten out of that segment yet, and we're still 3 minutes short of needing to be out of that segment. So I'm saying we don't hit the main topic until 30 after, and so hey,
only when Adam's talking about his books.
hey,
Hey, stick it in your nose.
we've got 3 more minutes of how was your week, and I digress, and I am done, and I've got my shit out there. I'm good.
We could tell that throwing shit around your shop really is a passionate subject. So
We are the Impractical Blacksmiths. And I mean, and this is, and considering throwing shit around your shop is a blacksmithing topic, because obviously a lot of people do it.
We've all done it.
So I had this air source
Except
that I got really frustrated with, and I threw around on the other side of my shop.
Not throw me across the shop. I tripped.
No, it was this air compressor This is air compressor that I got at a freaking flea market for like $5, and I got it home and I was like, all right, a little pancake air compressor, and I plugged it in and it was running, and all of a sudden it had a freaking hidden rust spot that the dude had painted over and just blew out the whole bottom of it. I picked the thing up, it was still plugged in, and I just launched it into the pile of crap in my shop, and I'm like, this sucks. I was experimenting with it, and my idea was to take an air compressor and fill a PVC tube and let the air out of that. It didn't work, and I'm not trying it again because
Hey, John,
hurt my shoulder throwing that air compressor.
with the Ahmed, we segued straight back into the topic we started with.
I want a Segway. I would love to ride a Segway. You know.
Anyway, considering we are now less than a minute away from the
Squirrel, let's go off on the term segue.
Well, those are the gyroscopic, never mind. It's science.
All right.
All right.
We're at 29. Let's get going.
Yeah. So today's topic is air source. This month's topic is air sources. So today we're not really going to go deep into different types of air sources. We're kind of going to brush over everything, right? But let's start off with bellows. Now, we all know what bellows are. Bellows are, basically big leather things that what the common lexicon is big leather thing with two pieces of timber that you use to force air into a fire, be that a fireplace bellows all the way up to blacksmith bellows. But the etymology of bellows, being the instrument for producing of current air, especially for fire, dates back to around 1200 CE, being bellows literally meaning bags. The plural of bellu or a bellu, which northern form of belly from Old Late English belg, pair of bellows, bags, purse, or a leathern bottle. This was also extended from the root Germanic word bel, B-H-E-L. Now, essentially, this is actually the same root word for belly, meaning your stomach, and retained its original sense. It's attested in it is attested earlier in specific form, Beltberg, literally meaning bellow bag, and the modern word perhaps is a reduction of this compared to the Norse Blasterbelger or the German Blassebalg, which we use exclusively in plural since the 15th century, probably due to having two handles or two halves. So that's the etymology of bellows. It literally was interchangeable with bag, purse, or stomach. And if you think about the term, someone bellowed out a call or something like that, being, taking a big something, and that sound usually is forced from the stomach, lower chest, and you yell out. That's where, bellowing out a call is also linked into, blasting air. So going back through history, of course, there are a lot of different types of ways to induce air into a fire. From the earliest source, which is literally a blowpipe or a blow tube, and using your lungs as the bellows, all the way through to bag and pot bellows, to the modern day where we use electric or powered sources such as shop vacs, of course, specific blowers, bouncy castle blowers, all that type of thing. Basically, any way to induce or force air into a fire in order to increase the temperature. Now, that's why I said it can be as simple as a pipe into the ground and you using your lungs and blowing forcefully. Now, if anyone that has blown up a balloon would know that continually trying to force air into something can leave you a bit lightheaded. So it's reasonable to assume that back in the day they probably had a couple of bellows boys, apprentice or whatnot. That was their whole job, was literally standing there and blowing into the tube in order to make the fire hotter. As time progressed, that job would have also changed, going through to bags bellows, which would often take one or more people, and a bag bellow literally being a leather bag with two wooden, usually wooden, sometimes ivory, and sometimes metal handles sewn to the top, where you could open up the bellows, close them, and then force them down. Open them up as you bring back up, close them, and force them down, creating a seal each time. And this, of course, then evolved into what we would call a pot or plunger bellows. Now we also consider that a bucket bellows, where it was a ceramic or earthen pot, or and later on wooden barrel or something like that, which had the bellows tubes into the tweer, which would basically be leather or some sort of impermeable air impermeable membrane over the top with handles on top, and you would lift and plunge up and down like a plunger. This, of course, this was used right into the 19th century in parts of Africa and Asia. So it was a proven technology that was used for a long, long time, even up into recently modern times. Then, of course, we have what we would now, in the modern lexicon, call bellows, which is that spade-shaped tool, which was hinged at one end where the air outlet was, and often for a fireplace bellows with only two pieces of timber with a leather membrane around the back, an opening which would allow air to rush in the expansion of the bellows, and then would seal shut and force the air out of the end towards the bellows pipe or blowpipe into what would be the tweer. Then developing on from that were a range of different styles of bellows used throughout the world around that time. So, of course, we have the Asian box bellows, which were, like it suggests, a box, generally rectangular in shape, with a sliding plunger that you'd actually move back and forth, with two inlets and outlets for air, which would force it into the air tubes and then into the tweer. Further from that, we've got an accordion bellow. Now, this was also a relatively modern invention. It was before the mechanical blower, but after something like the box bellows or the spade-shaped bellows, blacksmith bellows. This was also predominantly a blacksmith bellow. It was also adopted into things like organs and other air-based instruments, where that consistent and constant use of air power was necessary, and it was generally a cylindrical in shape, very similar to a traditional blacksmith bellows in operation, in the sense that would generally have three platforms of wood, one at the top, one in the middle, one down the bottom. And as you would raise, generally these accordion bellows were guided, so you would pull up the top, it would fill in with air from the bottom, and as you would force it down, it would actually force the air out through the top of the top lung. Now, funnily enough, there are some instances where each side of the bellow is actually called a lung, particularly for something like blacksmith bellows and accordion bellows. So the whole thing itself is called the bellows, whereas a single individual chamber can be referred to as a lung. So a lung of the bellow, as opposed to a lung of the bellows being plural, as in the whole thing. And a lung of the bellows being one individual chamber, particularly for something that had multiple chambers, like a blacksmith bellow or an organ bellows, for example. This isn't always the case. It can be referring it to by the singular bellow as opposed to bellows is also correct. But the separation makes it more distinct when you're talking about, for example, if you refer to a fireplace bellows, it is generally just the two pieces of timber, whereas a blacksmith bellows or an organ bellows, for example, would generally have those separate chambers. So that's the reason why using the plural across all bellows and then referring to a single chamber as a lung makes more sense. Now, around the 1850s-ish is when we start seeing or looking more into mechanical blowers. Now, these were distinct from bellows in the sense that they didn't have a lung, they didn't have lungs, they weren't relying on a sporadic expansion and contraction of any sort of bag. These were something that were consistently able to run and provide a very steady stream of air. Now, this was also during the time peak industrial revolution, which more and more machinery definitely needed that constant flow of air. These blowers were what we would consider now to be basically air compressors. They were designed in order to provide machinery with that constant stream of air to provide the fuel more efficiency to burn and provide the power that was needed for whatever was being used. Funnily enough, though, around the time that blowers were developed, the first sources of compressed air were also being developed. So it's one of those things. Compressed air was at the time, or around the time, also being used in things that we discussed, stuff like fuel oil forges and gas forges. These were technologies that were in very, very much in their infancy towards the late 1800s, late 19th century, and into the 20th century. So particularly forced air being either compressed or from a blower was also being developed alongside those technologies, and also to see if they could provide more efficiency for those machinery. And funnily enough, it's what actually eventually led to what modern turbocharged systems in automotive industry, because if you look at a turbocharger, it is a mechanical blower for all intents and purposes. So it's forced air into a motor. It's exactly what these designs go back, nearly 200 years, 170 odd years. So these are things that the concepts have been around for a long time, and basically have continued and remain the same even to this day. Now, there are dozens and dozens of different designs for bellows and blowers out there, from using leather and timber all the way to steel for blowers, recycled materials, and you can even I even have a design for a quote unquote box bellows made out of PVC pipe, and I'll show you the design as soon as I can find it in my designs book. So I am a big proponent of designs book. So yep, believe it's there. So there is a picture of a box bellows made out of 3-inch PVC pipe. So, you know, if with a little bit of imagination and a little bit of, you know, give it a go, you can come up with a plan for a bellows that may suit your particular situation. You know, if you don't have access to being able to buy, source, or buy or source a new or historically made bellows or blower. That's pretty much what I've got on it. I can see people giggling and laughing at the comments, so I'm going to hand it over to you guys to read some of the comments, and we'll have a bit of a chat about them.
Now, I just got you said the phrase funnily enough times that I pulled up an image of a funnel so that the next time you said it, I could do this. And just to have a picture of a funnel over your face. And I don't know. that's why I looked zoned out. I was grabbing a picture of a funnel.
And what were you giggling at, Alexis?
Oh, I was just like, I was having, okay, so fair disclosure. This isn't funny. It's maybe like my bad on my part. So in my past, I have learned and forgotten like 5 languages, right? Just for the fun of it.
So I screwed up my German, basically.
No. Hold on. My point being, like I've learned a bunch of different languages to the point where I could be fluent. Like not like fluent, like just have a conversation, but like I could walk around in a foreign country and get the information I need from a native speaker and relay what questions I have. You know what I mean? I can get by. Not maybe conversational, maybe it's not fluent. Conversational, but if you don't use it, you lose it. And so, like, I mean, like, I live in Texas.
Is that where it went?
80% of the people here are Mexican, right? And I used to work with everyone that I worked around spoke no English. And, you know, after like 6 months, and, you know, we could just banter back and forth, whatever. Anyways, my point being is like, I used to be conversational in German, and I you know, when I walk around Germany, I could have a conversation with somebody without even thinking about it. But then I want to say something to Jurgen, and I'm like, well, you know, let me use his native tongue, and so I want to just like type it out. But then, wait, I don't know how to spell it. I know how to say it and whatnot. And if I read it, I can recognize it. But you know, off the top of my head, so I've got to run it through Google Translate to make sure I fucking get it right, because I'll fuck it up. And then, you know, and then Jurgen responds to me in German or Deutsch, and I'm like, I think that's what that says, but it may not. Let me run that through Google Translate to make sure I fucking got it right. And it's like, I'm an imposter. I don't, you know, I mean, like, I think I know what I'm saying, and I think I know what you're saying, but I feel compelled to check to make sure. And you know, so there's that. And I was laughing about that, and I was laughing about the fact that you were just talking about the bellows and the single lung and the double lung and all that. And then Yamez is just like staring at the screen straight ahead, and it looked like he was dead asleep.
No, I
was like, it doesn't look like we've zoned out.
No, people need to remember I have all the production stuff right here. So like I got a screen here and a screen here, and then I was setting up for a joke and doing production stuff. I was debating on whether or not to
sleeping during Adam's speech.
No, I was thinking of the show. I was debating on cropping the funnel so that it was just the funnel, like an image with a transparent background to throw over. And it's like I was thinking, okay, how to set the hotkey. So I push one button, it just flashes a funnel every time he says it, so that I can be quick with it. And then he didn't say funnel again, and I'm like, or funnily again, and I'm like, all that time on that joke wasted. And then the explanation of the joke, and now we've got squirrels running around again. No,
You know
it's
You know what? I'm glad I ruined your joke, Yamas. No.
nerd. Nerds.
See,
But,
and Jurgen says that German is much more difficult than English. I disagree. Like of all of the languages that I've learned, that was kind of one of the easiest ones, and I don't even know why. Like, I used to go to this club called Riverside in Trier, and I used to have a coffee cup, but my ex-wife broke it, just because they don't understand the importance of memorabilia that you collect from like places you've been to. Anyways, and it said on it like Riverside, it had the logo and it said Unterhaltungszentrum. And for some reason, like it's one word, Unterhaltungszentrum. And for some reason I just knew that meant Underground Central. And I have no idea why I knew it, because I mean it's a word that's this freaking long. I mean it's 20 some odd letters. And it's like it's Underground Central. I don't know. For some reason, that was easy for me. But
there's a squirrel I want to chase with that comment, but we'll get back on this topic for a moment.
I want to make a bellows.
I do not.
First of all, going back to now, Matt from Double O Negative said turbos are designed to compress air that flows through a centrifugal flow. You can make a jet engine out of a turbo. Now, that is 100% true, but actually brought me back to actually ancient Rome and using and how early forges, even bronze age forges for melting bronze and stuff like bronze age furnaces would actually be built into the side of the hills in order to catch the wind and force it into their furnaces and forges to so that it wasn't manual effort going into actually providing that airflow. Then of course it also made me think of those that had water wheels and whatnot. Water wheels. Someone said that they were going green and they were going to build a windmill to provide force there. I think that was John Brunel said that, and that is actually a legitimate way to do it as well. That windmill could be used to pump a bellows quite easily. So these are actually really, really good options for building the power sources for bellows, of course, going right through history. So you guys are on point with your suggestions there. And yes, I know I need to take a breath. And John said, waiting for Adam to quit speaking, Adam would make a great forge blower. No, I know I'm full of hot air, but bite me. So yes. I could just shut up and let you guys carry the.
No,
carry
you're
the
fine.
If you'd like.
You're totally fine. I remember.
See, as soon as
I remember I started.
goes,
yeah,
no.
right. No, I remember starting out. My first forge blower was a shop vac, because I didn't know what I needed. Was a shop vac on reverse with no air control.
Screw you, Kevin.
I take that back. The air control that I had, because I had it blowing into a pipe into the side, or that went along the bottom of the forge, much like we were talking about the forges, a wash basin forge with the pipe with the holes drilled into it. And I basically had a cap at the end that I would loosen and let air out. And once I realized, holy shit, I'm blowing sand everywhere. I'm like, this just isn't. It's too much air. So it's like I adjusted it that way. And it's like, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an electrician, and I put a motor controller on it, burned out one of the, or burned out a small shop vac doing that, and then I put a better motor controller on it, and just said, well, I got a shitty, shop vac, so fuck it, and then I can't remember where I was when I got it. I think I got my first hand crank blower at Quad State, maybe. I think. Was it? Yeah. And
yeah, it was.
I switched to hand crank blower, and I'm like, man, I love this thing. So much easier to use, so much more pinpoint precision than a powered blower. And aside from that, it's like I did the majority of my foraging, on stream or live, because back then I was doing them 6-hour live streams, and I was constantly burning steel because I'm getting distracted and not turning it off, and switching to the air helped that. And then a buddy gave me a powered actual forge blower that with a dial and everything. I'm like, man, this is the way to go. And I went back to it with the little remote control on-off button, that I had wired into it.
Well,
and
yeah. Here's the funny thing. There you go. I nearly said it. That blowers after their invention, the 1870s, were almost universally adopted in blacksmith shops. A blower, powered or hand crank, was considered undoubtedly the best. Its equal and continuous blast was proved superior to the spasmodic, variable, and intermittent current from bellows. They were almost universally adopted after their invention, and there were several kinds of blowers used in portable forges. However, there was not much difference between brands and styles historically. In workshops, a row of forges were generally supplied with a blast from a single industrial fan or blower, with each forge being furnished with a throttle valve in its tweer pipe. So using some sort of air diversion in your forge, if you have something like a shop vac or a constant speed blower that's hooked up to electricity, and using some sort of throttling or valve type of setup, is actually historically accurate for an industrial workshop. So for anyone that says that says to you this isn't historically accurate or whatnot, first of all, screw them, and second of all, it actually is. So you are quite fine to use some sort, if that's all you have access to, use it, because at the end of the day, it is accurate. Nothing we do in this craft is new. Nothing we do in this craft haven't been thought of before. We're just kind of reinventing and rediscovering things as we go with the current technology that we have. That's what I've got to say on it. So yeah. And Canadian, go.
I was just say Canadian Necktie says he switched to propane because he can't find any coke in his area anymore. And I tried to type it to him, but I was hitting all the wrong keys. But man, if you can't get coke where you're at, drop me a DM. I mean, I know some people would like to move into the area, and get some distribution going. Hey, just saying.
And as discussed last month, there's always charcoal and corn.
And that was
and
totally
Pepsi.
A joke. So I mean, so when the DEA is rewatching this, it's a blacksmith joke. Get over it.
Yeah.
Corn, and considering corn is now a euphemism for some other form of modern entertainment on the interwebs.
Yeah. Corn means something completely different nowadays because it'll get you shadow banned.
Exactly. So we're referring to actual feed corn for the YouTube moderators that are scanning our content.
The era of the internet, how it will bring us closer together and allow us to speak freely with other people around the world, and that experiment failed. I say they just unplugged the internet.
Well, I mean, no, that is curious though. I mean,
no,
I find that. No, I mean, fine. I'll leave it.
Well, no, that they got to change words to. Anyway,
to get around an algorithm that's gonna hide your content. There are certain words that the algorithm goes, nope, nobody's gonna see this, and so you have to get around it with things like corn or the orange and black YouTube, or and you're all gonna have to fucking Google that because I guarantee you, I'm the only one here that knows what the orange and black YouTube is until you look it up and you go, oh yeah, I know what that is.
And then this type of conversation always reminds me of something like and this is blacksmithing related. The sword maker that goes, the sword's nearly ready. I just have to work out a few kinks. And the sword has
Ooh.
hit me, daddy.
temper me harder, daddy.
I like hit me harder, or I like feet, and the sword gets yeeted out the workshop.
I'd like to point out that Jack made a complaint earlier about how the word segue, the way it's spelled SEGUE, has been like co-opted into SEGU or SEGWAY. And I was like, well, segue is the thing you ride, and an SEGUE segue is like a transition from one topic into another. And I was thinking to myself, and then like a minute later, he talks about yeeting something out of the shop, and I'm like, so you're going to complain about the word segue, but then totally use the word yeet in the next sentence. I mean,
no cap, right?
And yeet. And yeet is a modern. Yeet is a modern word.
I know.
It's something that never existed before.
That's the point. I mean, it's just like you segue doesn't mean what you think it means. I yeeted that shit right out the door, and I'm like, wait a minute.
That said, most people don't realize that I am speaking an entirely different language to most of you listening, and Yamez and Alexis, because you do. But unless you read the way I write, it is I speak an entirely different language. Not only do we have our own individual lexicon. Ben Toombs also understands this, having spent some time in Australia, but we have our own completely different lexicon of words that we use that is entirely separate to most of the world. And sometimes we pick up stuff from the US and Britain and stuff like that. But Alexis and Yames have both been speaking to me long enough to pick up on my colloquialisms. And a perfect example of that I used early in the show, a whippersnapper.
Yeah.
And Yames and Alexis both had a great chuckle when I first said that sentence.
I'll tell you, it's like the Australian versus American English. It's like, if I were to say I'm going to go have me a long black, a lot of you guys would snicker, But Adam would be like, "Oh yeah, you getting some coffee?"
Yep.
But okay, so to be fair. A lot of people consider all of us to speak English. To be fair, Adam.
To be fair.
Man, you guys are just like sleeping on the job. Fuck it.
Yep. There it goes.
Anyways, so a lot of people just consider us all to speak English, and that's not entirely accurate. We speak American. We don't speak English. And a lot of people take that for granted. Like, English is the official language of the United States. No, we don't speak English. We speak American. It's way fucking different. Australians don't speak English. They speak Australian. It's not the same. I mean, like, I mean, yes, we can understand each other, but it's like the difference between Portuguese and Spanish. It's very freaking similar, and one person can understand the other, but the language isn't exactly the same. And the same thing with like English in England. You know what I mean? Like, they have words that we don't have. Y'all have words that we don't have. We have words that y'all don't have. Like, these are all different dialects of a same base Latin language. And for some reason, we all call it English, but it's not. There's English, there's British English, there's Australian English, there's American English, and, I mean, there's Jamaican English. I mean, like, that's a whole different freaking ball game altogether. Then you throw in Creole and all that stuff. And I mean, the English language has dialects that are unrecognizable to each other. You know what I mean? And so to say it's the same language, I think does it a very great disservice.
And on an interesting note, I changed it. America doesn't have an official language.
No, it doesn't. It's. I'm aware that. I know. I said that, but I was saying it as in like people think that.
But a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know. America does not have an official language.
Canada is English and French, and a lot of people think American is English, but it's not.
No, but
This is what we
accepted
get when we
languages
go
in
into
America.
This is what we get when we go into the etymology of the word bellows.
Yep. But the accepted languages that are used in America, generally speaking, are English, Spanish, and Spanglish. Funnily enough, I was doing research into the US many years ago, and English, Spanish, and Spanglish are the three most accepted languages in the US.
Okay, so you got to understand that Spanglish isn't like
It's more of a
it's it's not mixing words, like it's more like word Spanish, English word Spanish, English word Spanish, Spanish, English word. You know what I mean? Like which is really weird. And when you can speak both languages, really fucking kind of throws you off a bit. Like you're like, wait, what? Why did you just say El Caro? Like you're obviously of Hispanic origin, and I mean it's like,
Jack
I
Hines
just made that up. I swear to God, I just made that up off the top of my head. That's not something that's like actually happened. That's just something I came up with in 0.3 of a second of an example. So
Jack Hines brought up a thing. Jack Hines
speaking of hot air,
point. Yeah.
Speaking of hot air, does air temperature make a difference when smithing?
No.
Yes and no.
It makes a difference to you.
I say yes and no because it depends on what you're doing. Regular smithing, general blacksmithing, art smithing, that type of thing, no, it doesn't.
Nope.
It makes no difference. However, if you are doing something like smelting, with blast furnaces and stuff like that, there is an argument that hot air may assist because, particularly in the Bessemer process, they use heated air in order to assist with smelting. But that is far enough removed from blacksmithing that doesn't really make a difference.
Okay, so ambient air temperature outside has no effect on forging whatsoever because the difference in temperature that we can sustain is so small in the relation of the temperature range of steel that it makes no difference. Like the hottest temperature we forge at 130 degrees Fahrenheit outside air temperature versus the coldest temperature we forge at 100 below Fahrenheit is only a 200 degree range in the temperature of the steel. The steel does not give a damn about 200 degrees of air temperature. It makes no difference. Now, the temperature of the incoming air into the process, that's a different story. I mean, if you're blowing negative 273 degree air into a blast furnace, that's going to be detrimental to the effect of, of smelting. But in the forging process, I don't know. I kind of thought that's where that was going, but maybe I was wrong.
I think we both answered two different, like the same question in two different ways there, which I think is very useful because I was talking about the air that goes into the forge, and you were talking about the ambient air temperature. So they both together provide a more rounded answer. So thank you very much for filling in there, Alexis. And I just saw Big Dog drop in. G'day, Big Dog. How are you?
Yeah. You heard that. You heard that right. You know what? I mean, sometimes you just gotta say it like it is. Sorry, Tim, but
we do try to keep it clean.
Yeah, but it's just that sometimes, I mean, there's no suitable or alternative statement, and you just got to say it like it is. So, sorry.
There's Roy jumping in with Delta T's. So yes.
Now he just needs to come at us with the Delta V.
Now
I
I
will.
forgot
I
the
will
segue
say
that.
though.
Okay.
I forgot what I was going to say.
You forgot?
Well, I was going to try and segue into final thoughts because I've got some appointments that I have to meet.
Okay. Well, I was trying to remember the segue that I avoided earlier, but I can't remember what it was now, so it doesn't really matter. I'll start with final thoughts, and I'll come back to our outro in just a minute when everyone else has done theirs. But basically, air sources. As long as you can force air into the forge, it will work. We'll in this month. We'll go a little bit more deeper into different constructions and different types of forced air or getting air into your workshop or into your forge. But as a general overview, I think today was pretty good. Even if you just have to stand on the end of a pipe and blow in, or get a big intake. Funnel and force it down into your forge by just more and more reduction. That's good. Do that as long as it gets your forge lit and gets you forging. As long as it works. Funnily enough, Alexis.
Yeah, Yamas. Give me a minute.
Sorry, I was just
Yeah,
typing
looks like
something.
you're up.
Okay, yeah. So my final thoughts are: over the years, you see things evolve. Like even like this forge bellows. Like we were hearing that awesome history of air from from Adam, and then you get what we have today, and it, like every tool and every facet of blacksmithing, it's like we use the most efficient, the most modern. We try to be the most modern because it's hard work, make it easier. So going into that whole thing about traditional blacksmithing and everything, well and good. However, the traditional blacksmith was an innovator. So, and that shows even with the air source, So, that's kind of my final thoughts on airflow or air sources.
All right, so like my final thoughts on the thing, like yeah, we're talking beginner or intermediate air sources, like are just like beginning part of it. Lots of different things you can go with, whether it's a bellows or a hand crank blower or a blow dryer or an industrial blower or a bouncy house blower. There are lots of different options at your disposal. And when you first start out, you probably ought to go with something that you have the most control over. Because like with a I've got a hand crank blower and a hair dryer, and the hair dryer is really convenient because I can just let it go. Like I can start the fire in like 30 seconds, and then I can let it go while I'm doing other things and just let it. And in 5 minutes, I got a rip roaring coal fire ready to do some stuff. And but on the other hand, if I want to be precise and I want to be conservative with my fuel, I'll just sit there and just crank it by hand, and I can actually get more airflow out of my hand crank blower than the hair dryer does. But I can also, when I turn around with the piece, if I was using the hand crank, it stops burning the fuel while I'm working at the forge. Whereas if I'm in a hurry, a lot of times with the hair dryer, I don't turn it off. Like I just leave it blowing, and I pull my piece out, turn around real quick, and do my forge weld or whatever. You know what I mean? And so, like, there are a lot of different options, and each one is really specific to your situation, so to speak. And so, picking your air source is as much dependent on what you're going to be doing with it as much as it is dependent on the design of your forge. So, And you can also combine air sources, like have 2 or 3 different things. You could have a bellows and an electric blower. You can have a hand crank and electric blower. Heck, I mean, if you wanted to, you could out how to pipe in all 3 or 4, or I mean, you like throw a shop vac on reverse and really pour the coals to it. I mean, or give it the beans, as they would say on Top Gear. And so there are a lot of different little options, and it boils down to how much effort do you want to put into your air control, and how much air do you need to have. So with that, I mean, that is my take on the broader spectrum of air sources and air control. And I'm going to turn it over to Adam for our outro on the weekly thing, and then we'll say goodbye and then pop into the after chat to delve into some of this stuff more deeply. If you just want to join us on the Discord and argue your point, feel free to do so. So, Adam, take it away.
So, thanks to everyone for joining us. You can find Yamez on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Island Metal Forge. You can find Alexis at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you have any suggestions for the Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, particularly with our upcoming Tools of the Week, or Tools of the Month so far, you can leave it under the hashtag Middle of the Week in the YouTube community chat, in the Discord, or you can email us at impracticalblacksmith@gmail.com. If you found us at Spotify, Amazon, or Google Podcast, we upload generally every Wednesday. Or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think it's daylight savings time over there at the moment. And it's currently 12:30 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time. But check that against your local time, and that's at the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, thanks for joining us again. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to leave us a star rating. We really do appreciate your support, and share it among your favorite socials. Get our names out there, particularly for those that maybe you or maybe a little bit different like us. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
That's it.
Thank you all for showing up and putting up with us.
And Jack is gonna go live as steampunk Batman. He totally said he's gonna do it, so we're gonna hold him to it.
Yep.
Steampunk Batman.
I'm Batman.
All right. Later, everybody. Where's the? Oh man, there it is.